afternoon and welcome back to the cloth lithography sort of experiments. I've got 3 pieces of cloth here. This is the cotton bedsheet as we did in the previous one. I did another sort of experiment on, I think it is cotton again, but it's got a sort of a crisscross prominent warp through it, so there's a very prominent texture to the cloth. And then just for a laugh to see what happens, a piece of old sacking, like coffee sacking. So I'm going to go crack straight in sort of doing it, because how to do it has been in the previous one. So it's got my bigger roller out so I can avoid the tram lines, or attempt to. Just realised I kind of want to go from the top. I don't know why I started from the bottom there. Just had a thought as well. See, I'm learning about the cloth litho as we go. I've done it before, but I am still learning for me as well. I'm actually going to see if I can tape that to the top there to see if that will help with the inking. And I actually added 1 or 2 drops of oil to this black ink. That's not, to try and stop it sticking to the background so much and actually attracting to the cloth, which is obviously what we want. Just going to roll with that. It is inking up nicely actually. Oh, I've got a thought. Gum tape. I am very slow sometimes, bear with me. Even the most logical solution takes me a while to figure itself out, which I'm sure is hilarious for many people. But at least I know I'm like that. So I'm just going to wet some of this gum tape and stick it there. I'm going to do another bit. And just sort of whip that off. And I do the next one. And this is what I like about doing these videos, is I'm learning with you some of these processes. I've done a lot of research off screen, but when I'm actually coming to doing it here, I'm actually learning with you guys. So you have to bear with me. And I'm the one making all the mistakes, so when you come to do it, you can completely master it. Or if you have better ideas, just, let me know what you found. That's working nicely. It's inking up nicely actually, inking up better than the other one, which is always good. If in doubt with all things in life, lithography stones is always a good solution. Not even that. I keep going through all these these numerous attempts of trying to figure out how to do this, and even attaching it to a wooden board and stapling it down didn't want to work. So we're just working as we go. But it's actually inking up really nicely. The marks are there. The oilier ink I think has made a difference, which is always good. Let's get rid of those guys. I have 2 little hands who could help me. Go ahead, Ed. Could you come, please? And pop your finger there and there, and just hold the cloth. Don't look at the camera. Bend your head down. That's it. Yep, just really firmly. Yes, hold it down, and then hold it in the middle if you can stretch your hand across. Yeah? There you go, look at that, just when needed. And again, babe. Stretch across. Ready? Hold it really firmly, push down. That's it, brilliant. Hold it there. That's great. Thank you, Gwyneth. What do I do without you, printmaking assistant? It's always useful having little hands around. Okay. I'm going to rotate it round, Gwyneth. I'm going to do the same again, okay? No, don't worry about your fingers. You're a printmaker's daughter. You know you like that. Okay, what we're going to do, just leave it there, babe, and then you can step off, please. Oh, sorry. Step away from the camera. That's it. Right, what we're going to do now, I'm just going to add a bit of water to the cloth. Just patting out, this is, unlike in lithography, you know, if you're doing a stone or something, a spotless sponge, but these alternative lithography methods end up with so much ink everywhere. The sponges get so dirty. I just keep a stock of, they're clean and they've been well washed, but they are stained, and that's fine. You want to get those middle bits. Just cleaning it up, brilliant. Actually quite useful having the sponge, it creates a stickiness to the surface, so that's good. Right. That's cleaning up, that's good. You'll notice as well you end up with a lot of sort of cloth fibres in your roll-up surface. You can probably see them on the camera shot. It's going to happen. So I'm just rolling this because the water I just added to the cloth is just resisting the oil, so you just have to kind of work it, and eventually, there you go, you can feel the tack come back into the ink. Going to, those smudge marks actually work really nicely this time, which is good. That was the rubbing stick. Just going to see if I can clean up this bit down here. Lovely. Okay, we're going to leave that one as is, so I could keep going and going and going. So I'm just going to leave that set aside, sounds like I'm a farmer, set that aside on the edge of the press over here just to dry. So slide that water off, add a touch more ink for the next one, just a tiny amount. Move my sponge. I'm just going to throw the next one, which is that sort of textured cotton, into some water. To get the gum off, I've got a bucket of water down there whilst I work this ink. There we go, you can begin to hear its stickiness come back, great. There we go. And we're back. Okay. Now this fabric is very stiff. It's, as I described, it's kind of a canvas, textured canvas. Just going to blot off the excess in a blanket down here I've got on the floor. So I'm just literally sandwiching it between a layer of cotton toweling. And let's see how this one goes. It's already quite crinkly because it's a canvas, so we might get some interesting textures. It's easier to ink up, much easier because it's heavier. Whoop. So you will inevitably get things like that. Much easier to ink up because it's not floating everywhere. And also you're working with the texture of the fabric already. You can see the sort of the crisscross coming through. That balance of when the background pattern influences the main pattern too much. Like with Mokolito, you get to a point where the wood grain becomes too dominant. And you can't actually see your drawn marks. Try and get some in that bit. And the crisscrossing on some bits it works really nicely, and other bits we're losing some of the details. So it's all a balancing act. Oop. Get those pen marks over there. Sponge gone. Almost done with that one, I think. Okay, I'm going to leave it there because I don't want to actually over-ink it and then block out everything, all the information I've got. So again, that's going to the side over here. Finally! Let's just see what happens, yeah? So it's going in the water down here. Do you want to come and jump on this to try it? Or stand in it, walk on over it. Come on then. That's it. So the weight of a 6-year-old drying that, that's great. Now you noticed I've left the coffee sacking, or the sacking, till last. And that is because it will leave a huge amount of fibre in your inking up area. So I was trying to be efficient in what I was sort of doing in that sense. Actually, that's inking up really nicely. It's always fascinating. You might be able to catch in the light how my sort of inking up pad has got sort of the fibres attached to it. It's inevitable. That's why, as I say, I left this one to last to try and just be a bit logical about it. Fascinating this, isn't it? That's taken the ink on the grease areas really well, and it's actually resisted on the non-grease areas incredibly well. Fascinating. Right, I think that's that one done. It's doing so well up until then. Okay. So, we're going to print them now. Let's move them off the press bed. We're going to do that one first, so I need some tissue paper. I always reuse tissue paper. Like this has got old lithographic prints on. There's no point, as long as that's dry, this area, you can reuse the tissue paper. I hate the waste if you don't reuse it. I've got a small piece of the Japanese paper here. I'm just being economical with my papers. So I'm actually going to sandwich that in between the tissue. Hang on. Try and get a bit of edge in. Like that. Brilliant. So number one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to print them all at once and just put them to one side, or try to lay them out as best I can. If I move my roller out of the way. Been auditioning this afternoon, so we've got sort of prints. Auditioning for the free colouring sheet series, so I've got prints hanging in the most awkward places. Right, there we go. That sounded like it was through. Brilliant. Just going to wheel this back. And then we'll do the cotton calico sheeting next. I've done a lot of Mocolito in my time. I tend not to with the Mocolito. There's a lot of videos going out there. Hang on. There are a lot of videos going out there that use this sort of method with silicons and paint sealers and all this, and I'm trying to do the most basic so it has the least environmental impact, i.e. gum arabic and a piece of wood and lithographic tools. And I've done a lot of that. The cloth lithography is kind of reasonably new to me, and I can see its potentials. I'm going to keep doing these videos and researching and experimenting on how it can work further, but I like the fact it is quite free. It's pretty, it's a piece of fabric. And that, to me, is someone who makes a lot of fabric items, be they clothes or used in sculpture, that to me opens up a huge number of possibilities. And so, as I say, I'm learning with these videos as we go, but I'm not one to ever profess I'm an expert at some of these things, because some of them I'm not. And it's good to be aware of that. Just going to literally start stacking them, and then I will lay them out as we are done. Last one. I'm just going to loosen the pressure for this one a bit, otherwise I'll get a nice imprint on my blanket. That Hessian's quite chunky. That should be fine. Okay. Again, old tissue paper, waste not, want not. Piece of coffee sacking. Right on top. Just being over precautious in case, because the coffee sacking is quite thick, so that's why I'm popping a piece of tissue paper over the top as well. Good. Okay. Now what I'm going to do before I pull that from top, I'm going to grab a couple of scrap white sheets so I can do that, and I'll make it slightly clearer for you all. Okay, and we'll go through them one by one. We have that one. That one printed much better than the first attempt. Oh. Need a bit more press bed exposed. There we go. That one still had a lot of water in, so we'll let that dry, but actually the marks have turned out really nicely. Okay, so I'm just going to go through each one. So we have, firstly, that was the cotton sacking. No, sorry, the cotton sheet, and that's printed a lot clearer than the first attempt. You can see it's actually printed really nicely. We've got some really nice splats here, nice touche marks. The rubbing stick, which was this, has worked really nicely. There are some pens in there. There's some very faint. That was a lithographic drawing tool. Those smears were a rubbing stick on my finger. Again, that's touche with brush marks. I kind of, let's come around and see if that's in shot. There we go. You can see the variance of marks, which is really cool. Okay, number 2 was the textured canvas. The texture has kind of dominated this. Rather lovely texture though. But if you can see beyond that and the crinkled, you can see some of the marks. Again, I'm just going to come and hold it up a bit closer. You can see it's that balance of getting the texture right. That one was too heavyweight. I mean, it might be worth trying a ordinary stretching canvas, artist canvas. That would probably work rather successfully. Just going to bring this one in, which is the coffee sacking. If I come and hold it close to the camera, you'll see some damp patches where the coffee sacking was still quite wet. If you're able to, obviously just let that dry, because the oil-based ink isn't drying. So let your fabric dry. Obviously I'm on a time limit here. And actually, you can see really nice marks. I mean, my marks are very bold. They were only drawn with the drawing ink or touche, so very strong, greasy tools. And they're all there, and actually the contrast will increase as these damp patches dry. Again, that's just a time limitation thing. Some really nice spots, a nice swirl here. So that's actually worked really well. That's a really nice cool print there. So there we go, we have it. 3 different fabrics we tested. The basic cotton one worked really cleanly and really clearly. So if you've got that, that's worth trying it as your start. So I hope I hope we've all learnt together about this, and I'm still going to carry on pushing this one and experimenting a bit more, which will be fun. Thank you very much for listening, and I shall see you all again shortly.